Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us for stories making headlines here on NBC. I'm Franklin Thomas. Members of the Namibia National Teachers Union NANTU held a peaceful demonstration and marched to the office of the Prime Minister, where they handed over a petition with their demands today. They are demanding that government implements the recruitment and retention incentives for qualified teachers based in remote areas. The demonstrators scorched the capital's hot weather and marched through the city centre to the Premier's office under heavy police guard to hand over their petition. Chaos nearly erupted when the Prime Minister delegated his permanent secretary to invite the union leadership for consultations before the petition could be read. However, the NANTU leadership refused and maintained that the time for negotiations was over. The just-ended three-day Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting discussed issues of food security, climate change and the promotion of effective natural resource management through greater transparency and better governance. It also discussed measures needed to eradicate diseases such as polio and HIV and to address prevalent diseases such as malaria and tuberculosis. It has been 3 days of closed-door discussions for the Commonwealth nations, which is a voluntary association of 54 independent sovereign states headed by Queen Elizabeth II of Britain. The Queen addressed the leaders, urging them to help bring new vibrancy to the Commonwealth through the pursuit of reforms. She said the world today was facing insecurity and uncertainty in finance, food security, climate change and trade and development. The Windhoek High Court today convicted 2 Keetmanshoop men of the 2007 murder of 55-year-old former teacher Magdalena Maas. High Court Judge Alfred Siboleka said all indirect evidence to the crimes pointed to Albertus Kloete and Quentin Pieters as the robbers and murderers of the former teacher. She was found dead on the floor of her home at Keetmanshoop on the morning of November 3, 2007. Judge Siboleka ruled that these 2 men acted in common purpose to rob and murder the 55-year-old former teacher at Keetmanshoop. But he only found accused number 2, Quentin Pieters, guilty of Maas's rape. In business news, the IJG Business Climate Index for last month climbed by 4.1 basis points to reach 120.2 basis points. The upward movement confirms the index's 4th consecutive month in positive territory. The leading indicator, which consists of the average metal prices, commercial vehicle sales, the NSX local index and the average prime lending rate, saw the highest jump, gaining 6.4 basis points. Key contributors to this trend are lower international fuel prices, strong commercial vehicle sales and a surging NSX local index for last month. The investment index rose by 5.9 basis points owing to improved building and credit extension numbers. In international news, NATO Chief Anders Fogh Rasmussen has said the organization is proud to have helped Libya during the uprising against the late Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. Rasmussen is in Tripoli to mark the official end of NATO's Libya mission. He said NATO could help Libya's new rulers with security and the transition to democracy if requested. NATO forces acting under a UN Security Council mandate to protect civilians began operations in March as Gaddafi forces moved to crush the uprising. Canal France International had that report. And in sport news, a watershed Namibia Rugby Union elective congress will take place on Saturday in the capital. The meeting will bring together all affiliate members of the union from all corners of the congress. Now that the Rugby World Cup is something of the past, it will be back to the boardroom for the local rugby community to choose a leadership that will take the sport forward. Leadership squabbles in local rugby almost derailed the country's participation at the just-ended World Cup showpiece in New Zealand, and the Congress is seen as the right messiah for the rugby fraternity to smoke the peace pipe, map out the road ahead with a new leadership. And those were the stories that made headlines today. We wish you a productive week ahead. Good night.